So going live now. Everybody's flooding in. Welcome, everybody. This is our final session of the FEI Forum 2025. Very excited. This is going to be ending on a high with two fabulous people right here, who many of you will know very well. So just quickly before we start, we have some community guidelines. So if you are engaging, there's going to be plenty of time for chat. You can use the chat and the Q&A throughout to ask questions, to engage. We'll have some dedicated time at the end for Q&A with the wonderful Nikki and Adam. We're going to paste some community guidelines just into the chat. So just making sure that we are being nice and respectful to each other. So also, if you are using captions, you can translate those captions into your language if you hit the toolbar down below. We are also recording this session, so please bear that in mind. If you are going to be engaging in the chat box and you would rather do so, you can do so anonymously. So with all of that out of the way, welcome Adam, welcome Nikki. It's so lovely to have you here.
Yay. This is so exciting.
Yeah, I
Good
am
to be here.
so privileged to be able to call the two of you friends. And I figured the best way to open this up would be to just spend a brief moment recalling the way in which we both met.
Yeah.
So I first met Adam when we were volunteering at Changing Faces, and we were wearing sashes as though we were beauty contestants, and we were trying to compel a lunchroom full of lawyers, I believe they were, in a big corporate office in London to choose Changing Faces as their charity of the year. And we just had such a laugh and we were just giggling along, and it was just such a fond memory. And then the same goes for you, Nikki. We met back in the day. I think you were about 14.
I think I was
Um,
younger. I think I was like 12, maybe.
Yeah, and I slid into your DMs as an Uber fan and was like, hey, do you maybe fancy doing something with Changing Faces? And then you came into the office and then you did incredible things there, from Face Equality Week to going on this morning, and just,
I
yeah.
remember us all sitting in a circle with some other, people with facial differences and all like sharing our experiences. And it was like the first time I'd ever been in a room with like other people with facial differences like that. And I remember it feeling so significant at the
Yeah,
time.
that
Yeah.
must have been overwhelming.
Mm, crazy.
Yes, and time has both
Oh,
flown and also just, yeah, the concept of time. So that was a while ago.
I'm now
Um,
21.
yeah, yeah. And so much has gone on since then. And you both have continued to just be complete forces to be reckoned with on the TV, on the big screen, constantly. And Nikki, you are tuning in directly from Paris, where you've just walked in Paris Fashion Week.
I mean, I'm back now, but yeah, I walked in a show a couple of days ago, my first show, um, and rushed home yesterday. But yeah, it was incredible, and it felt like a mass like history, to be honest, to be someone with a facial difference walking for a show, not only in Fashion Week, but in Paris, where it's notoriously the most uninclusive in terms of, statistics and inclusivity and diversity. And so I think that felt massive for on a personal level of, never, thinking that would be possible, but also on like, I was so not nervous beyond belief. But what I kept telling myself was like, it's for face equality. It's for face equality. Like that's the only thing that was getting me through. That was like, this is all worth it. That's the only reason that I'm not doubting signing up for doing this.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. Well, you completely styled it out, and from what I've seen, you look like a complete natural.
Thank you.
So, as this is our keynote, we're going to spend a bit of time hearing from you both. I'm sure there will be lots of people here that really want to hear your story. So, I think first off, we're going to hand over to Adam, to hear about your journey, please.
Yeah, I've been in the game now for what, nearly 3 decades. God, I'm old. I joined Changing Faces in its inception in 1992. I was going through a rough time at school. I think when you're different in any way, the school playground can be a very Darwinian existence. And I just saw the poster in like a hospital waiting room at Great Ormond Street and like wrote the number down on my hand because mobile phones weren't as all pervasive as they are now then. And then got involved there as sort of like very much a service user. And then you, as Nikki beautifully alluded to earlier, meet other people with visual differences. And it's like this idea of seeing and being seen that
Totally.
are so harmonious because it makes you feel like you're less alone. And when you see adults who have walked through what you're going through and yet are still sort of successful and well balanced and driven, it lets you know, at least on a subconscious level, that it's gonna be okay. And that right now, yeah, sure, it sucks, but it's always darkest before the dawn. And then as you grow older, particularly in the industries both Nikki and I are in, it has a real lack of representation. And in film and TV, what is there isn't very good 9 times out of 10. And eventually I stopped looking for the role models and decided to become one. I was like, well, if no one else is going to do this, then I guess I'm going to have to be the one. Like someone's got to be the first guy
Yeah.
to do it. And so now it's just been what a career of being in different rooms with different commissioners and execs and at different channels and giving them sort of like kind correction, but with a little bit of sass. The degree of sass depends on who it is and what their previous transgressions have been. But equally, I think it all needs to be done with a lot more respect and kindness than perhaps sometimes DE&I is done with. And people don't know what they don't know. And so no matter how many times I've had the conversation, I think when you do have it, I had it with Netflix, like today, you have it like it's the first time every time and don't go in, even though we do carry a lot of the weight on our shoulders, you can't carry it with you into those meetings because it sort of sets you back. And it's done me that kind of attitude and good communication has done me well. I've done a dozen docs. I've been in 4 feature movies. I've got 2 in pre-production. And to the best of my knowledge, I am the only person with a visual difference facial disfigurement who's in the Academy of Arts, Motion Pictures and Science. So yeah, I am the one. It isn't Paris Fashion Week, but I'll
No,
take
if
it.
anything, I'd say it's much cooler. Like, I think it's incredible.
I
Very
don't have a
cool.
cute dress. This, this
No,
is
but you
A cute
M&S,
do.
suit, a cute suit.
Nikki.
I've seen your style, Adam.
You've seen my stylish style.
But
Left
hey,
to my own
you wore it
devices,
well.
I'm a mess.
Comfortability is key. But yeah, I think especially in, with what you do more is, film and TV, it's so kind of seen as unattainable, I think, and Hollywood as an idea is all about this glitz and glamour and this unattainability as us, modeling as are so many industries. And so I think it's so incredibly special, seeing the run you did at all the award seasons this past year was just so like incredible to see and so needed. And I think it makes you realize when you're in those spaces that wow, I am the first person here. There hasn't really been to note been someone before me that has done this. And I think there's something quite heavy about that because you're like, why hasn't
Mm.
it been done before? But also poignant about that you are the first person. I mean, how did that feel for you?
As you say, it's heavy, and I'm now constantly trying to throw down like ropes and ladders to other people
Yeah.
to come up and join me, and always looking for who's casting what and who, if not me, who else could I throw forward to be in this. but also now I can't screw up now. Like now I'm sort of like the guy. I can't be seen strolling out of nightclubs at 2 a.m. or any of that. You've got to
You're
once you're a
famous for
role
that.
model, you've got to be a role model, right? And I now find myself in rooms that I have no business, or that I have no business being in. I'm getting better at it, but it's this imposter syndrome,
I get
and I
it.
think a little bit is good because the only people that don't get imposter syndrome are imposters. But yeah, I'm always getting these weird emails. Like next week, I'm at a private screening of Wicked 2,
That's
and
so cool.
I'm like, why am I being invited?
Because you deserve to be there and
Like,
you should be.
Guillermo del Toro wants to invite you to his Frankenstein screening. I'm like, okay, bit weird. I mean,
So
I'm going,
jealous.
but a bit weird.
Oh my gosh. You'll have to, without any spoilers, tell me how it is.
I I've watched the I cried at the trailer,
Yeah.
Nikki Lily, and
Yeah.
I just know when they sing for good, I'm gonna be a mess. I'm gonna be
And
an
like,
absolute mess.
I think even Wicked in itself is like, I feel like we've kind of spoken about this, but the reason that I was bawling when I watched Wicked because it has such an undertone of like how being different, Elphaba's green, it's not quite a facial difference, but it's still this thing
Mm.
of being physically different looking, and how instantly before people even get to know her, she is ostracized and she is kind of put into a box and shunned. And I think it's in a really poetic way and in a fantasy way so well and deeply conveys what it's like to have a facial difference.
Yeah, yeah. And then at the end, she's like, it's one of my favorite lyrics in Defying Gravity, when she's like, "To those who ground me, take a message back from me."
Yeah,
And I'm that guy. I'm that kind of I told you so.
literally,
The best form of revenge is success.
totally. And proving that it is possible, even though for us it is, God, so much harder to even open the door even a tiny bit in any room we're in or any world or industry you're in. And I feel that the longer that I'm in it. But it just, yeah, it feels so much more significant than when we do.
I love, Nikki, how you have gone straight into TV presenter mode because that is one of your many facets. And you've asked Adam a question and skipped straight past telling us about your journey.
Oh yeah, I didn't even, do you know what? I didn't even
No, it's just
think
so
about it.
natural. It's just a wonderful, wonderful skill. But I would love for anybody that hasn't already heard your story, can you just tell a little bit about
Oh
your journey?
God, I was saying to Phil because we had a little pre-call, so we were all on the same page. Like, how, like, I could go on for like 20 minutes because my story's here, there, and everywhere. And I'm a rambler. But yeah, I was diagnosed with my condition at 6 years old, and that is when my appearance began to change. Up until that point, lived a average life, knew no different. This side looked like this side, and that's all I knew. And then at 6 years old, veins started appearing on the right side of my face and swelling. And things kind of escalated very quickly. I was in and out of hospital a lot. And my doctors didn't really know what was going on because my condition is so rare. I have a condition called AVM, and it affects, well, a facial one affects 3 in a million. And so it was a really scary time in itself of just being told at 6 years old that your life's going to change forever. You're going to need a surgery within the very near future, and that's not only going to be your first one or your last one. And so I think that in itself was difficult, that I didn't even really initially process that my appearance was changing. So so much going on at the like as well as that, and so much confusion at 6. I was like, oh, this is going to go away. This, if my appearance is changing a bit now, it will go back to how it was before. I didn't understand that that was going to be my reality and that was going to be finite. And I have like a distinctive memory of coming back from hospital one day after an appointment, also at Great Ormond Street, and just wetting a flannel and just wiping the right side of my face. And then when I realized, oh, this isn't face paint, well, this isn't coming off, this actually is my reality, it was kind of a stark kind of, yeah, kind of first time I'd been like, wow, this is my life now. And so I think it was very difficult. I think one of the hardest things when you have a facial difference is that you feel so out of control of your own identity, because you feel like it is so society kind of shapes it for you around, just your appearance. Before you're able to even, I think, both of us growing up with facial differences, it's so hard to have a sense of self when you're constantly being put into boxes, or given names or being whispered at. I think it's so hard to then know what your sense of self is, especially because you're not accepting any version of yourself, let alone trying to learn who you are as a person. And so I just massively rejected myself growing up. And I, at 8 years old, started filming videos online. I really got into makeup because that felt like control over my life and my identity, and reclaiming control that I felt had been taken away from me in my appearance, my health, my life. And so I put on a bit of red lipstick, and I felt not invincible, but I felt like it was a bit of armor, and it was kind of something that I'd reclaimed that was mine. And I fell in love with beauty. And so I would just film videos every now and then. And YouTube kind of became my safe haven because I was just in and out of hospital all the time. So I would watch videos of people playing with makeup and just thought it was magical how it could transform someone's, not their looks, but their confidence. I think it's beautiful. And I would sit on my mum's bed and just watch her do her makeup even before I was diagnosed, and be like, wow, this is so, it's magic. It's an art form like any other. And I think sometimes that message gets lost with makeup just being skin deep at times in the industry. But yeah, I kind of just would every now and then post on YouTube. It was a safe haven and a outlet and means of control for myself, and a project, I guess, to take my mind off of everything else I was going to. Because my life was, I'm sure Adam, you can agree, like my life was shaped around hospital, and childhood wasn't really a thing growing up. And so, yeah, it was kind of trying to find these little bits of normalcy where I could. But how I found Phil and Changing Faces was, yeah, she messaged me, and I was having a difficult time. So for the first couple of years of doing YouTube, I had my comments turned off because, I mean, I was very young. I was 8 years old, and I didn't really care about that side, the public side. I just did it for myself. And then after a couple of years, I was like, I would like to be able to interact with people. It was a way for me to bring the outside world in, because I didn't leave my house or the hospital bed. It was either or. Didn't go to school, didn't really have any friends, so it felt like a bit of connection. And yeah, I got positive comments and they were lovely. But of course, within those, I did get some negative comments. Being online, not a nice place at times, as we all know, us better than most. And yeah, I think that was really, really difficult. And it made me, I remember when I saw my first hate comment, when I turned my comments on, I found it, yeah, very startling. I think I'd been in a bit of a bubble of like, of course, I didn't accept myself, but I'd get stared at or pointed at, but it was never like to that extent where people had said stuff to me in person, because I was just in this bubble. And so I think I can understand that strangers online that knew nothing about you or your hardships could be so unkind. And then obviously you realize that pretty quickly. But it made me really want to question whether I wanted to even put myself out there. But I think that's the whole point, is that then trolls win. It's completely understandable if you don't choose to, but then that's exactly what their hope is to push you off and platforms. And so, like you said, Adam, it's kind of trying to, even though it's harder than ever, especially when you are one of the first, it's even more than necessary to be in those spaces, because of people that are trying to push you out. So I think that's where I found Phil as, I've always known about Changing Faces, but when she reached out, it was like the perfect time to work together. And it was, yeah, I remember going for a meeting at their offices, and it was we were in a room, we all sat in a circle, like an awareness meeting. Like we were going there for some sort of addiction. But yeah, it was so special. I'd never ever met someone with a facial difference, majority of my early childhood, with my condition changing and my appearance changing. And so it was adults, it was also young people, it was people my age, men, women. I think that was what was so special, is just showing how anyone can have a facial difference. 1 in 111 do. And so I think it was, yeah, so special, and it made me feel less alone and less ostracized for once. You were in a room of people with all unique experiences, of course. All of our stories are different, but like-minded with things that, your friends or, even your siblings or whoever else that doesn't have one can't understand. It's the nuances. So yeah, and since then I've, done presenting, modeling, uh bit of this, bit of that. But I think for me, the main thing that I think guides me more than ever is just trying to do things that matter and push that needle even that little bit that we can. Because things aren't moving fast enough. So whatever I think, like you'll agree, Adam, we can do to use our platforms to
Mhm.
we put ourselves out there even when it's so incredibly hard and ostracizing and all that comes with it at times. It feels even more important now more than ever, especially with where the world's at and things like that. So yeah,
And
did a
as
bit
you
of
get
that.
older and you do it more, you know what is a good opportunity and what isn't.
Yeah, you
And for
definitely cut
me,
through the people as well.
yeah, like learning to say no to certain things has become a real skill that I've had to finesse like growing up.
Mm.
Because when I first started, particularly in the TV, mate, I have done some shockers. Like I have done some actual shockers. So now I'm like, okay, is this good? No. So
Mm.
I won't do certain news channels, for example.
Yeah.
I got up in Celebrity Big Brother and laughed. Oh, how loudly I laughed.
Yeah, I think you do have to be a lot more selective, but I think that comes with us just caring so much about what we do that um you have to be careful with it. Of course, it has to make sense, but equally I think we have so much um yeah behind it. There's so much more depth behind every single thing we do that it's
Mhm.
everything matters in a completely different way and has a different weight than just an average looking person.
Yeah, and it all has to age well, which luckily our stuff has,
Done a good job.
indeed.
Yeah.
Well, with that in mind, I guess kind of looking ahead or looking, in recent years when you both have gotten more involved with Base Quality International, are there particular aspects of the movement that you're really passionate about or that you think that we need to give more energy to? What are you particularly kind of excited about in terms of the movement?
Hmm. Well, because it all matters.
Mhm.
I don't like kind of necessarily putting those kind of things in hierarchies, but I've always been a allyship guy. I'm like, how do you win people over to the cause? And you don't do it by shouting at them on the internet that they're wrong and they're bigots and they need to improve. You do it by sitting them down and saying, "Hey, I'm different, you're different. Let's talk about it. Ideally over cake. Everything's better with cake." And then I think it's also important, and I think sometimes it's easy to forget this with advocacy. We've got two ears and one mouth for a reason.
Mm.
And I think listening to other people's stories is equally, if not more important than being able to tell your own
Preach.
really well. And the longer we can keep doing this and having conversations with people who are in our community adjacent to it or who have nothing to do with it, as long as it's all being done with sort of respect and people are going into everything with like a clear head and a full heart, then I have no problem with it. I don't think in those situations there is such a thing as a stupid question. And I'm not one to sort of trip people up over the language they use, because as I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
And it's me being a dick to you because you said the wrong like verbs or adjectives. If I do that and I'm the first person you've met with a disfigurement, that's going to give everyone else going forward such a harder time.
Yeah.
And because Adam Pearson was a knob at an airport at one time, they would just avoid having the chat altogether.
Yeah.
Whereas this, again, I can do it first time, like it's the first time every time. That makes everyone's job a lot easier
Mm.
going forward. Because
Yeah.
then the next person doesn't have to do the heavy lifting. And so, yeah, I'm big into allyship, having conversations, building bridges. You win more friends with honey than with vinegar. I'm I'm that guy.
So true. I think, yeah, you said it so well. I think you don't know what you don't know in life, you know. We only know our own lived experiences. And I think a lot of I feel that when people want to ask me things about my condition or having a facial difference, a lot of it is met with, oh, sorry to ask, or like, I hope you don't mind. It's like, I don't mind. Like, so long as you know, think before you speak, and you're actively listening, like, though we may have answered that question a gazillion times before, we never mind because it's all in the hopes that then, you know, you will then tell your friend, or you will then be more aware, or, you know, be more conscious about what you say or what you do or how you support others that have facial differences or differences in general. And so I think there's also a lot of fear, that is the thing, around people who don't have facial differences saying the wrong thing, therefore they just don't
Hmm.
say anything at all, and then it's just this kind of like tiptoed around topic, when actually we'd much prefer if you just ask, you know. And I think that's the biggest part of allyship is, um just like you said, two ears one mouth, is just listening. And I think being an ally is doing something because, even though you don't have to, you know, I think in life we can all be a bit selfish, understandably, and being an
Mm.
ally is doing something just because. And I think the most valuable thing you can give to someone, outside of your own life, is your time. And so just, you know, listening to people and their stories, every no two stories the same, is so valuable. And just being more aware, I think awareness is just also so massive. Even when I've had conversations, you know, I talk a lot about with my friends about, how villains are portrayed in, media, and we did a lot with changing faces for that. And when I've had these conversations with my friends, they would have never thought twice about that because it's not an issue that affects them. But now they know, they won't look at these things the same way, and then they'll tell their friends, this is actually not okay. And so I think sometimes it's just starting a conversation to provoke a thought that wasn't there before, or to trigger a consciousness that just isn't switched on because it's not in their realm of needing to know about. So I think a lot of also being an ally is just knowing about things or speaking up about things, not because you need to, not because you have to, but because you should. And I think it shouldn't always be the people, like anything, like any, you know, whether it's race, whether it's disability, whatever it is, it shouldn't always be the people that have the thing that are doing all of the speaking, that are having to like speak so much that, you know, they have no words left. It should be those around us that are the ones that, you know, actually raise us up. And so I think that's what I'm learning more and more, is that even sometimes I find now in my comment sections, people will comment, what happened to her face? And even before I reply, or even before I acknowledge, someone else who follows me has already done the job for me and said
Hmm.
what my condition is, you know, a bit about me. And I think that's what's so nice as well. That is allyship in itself, because then it's not something that I have to do. It's using their time to reply to a comment. So I think allyship doesn't have to be the most crazy thing, you know. Of course, the bigger the better, but it can be something as simple as just being, having more awareness, and, looking outside of yourself, you know. So I think for me it's that, I was drawn by an artist called Kelvin, and he was kind of one of the first artists who did a campaign, around art, which is all about people with facial differences. And he worked with FEI and Changing Faces, and the campaign was literally called Drawing Awareness. And I think that was what was so special, is like, awareness is kind of one of the biggest things that makes a difference, I think. Because if you, what you don't know, you don't know. So I think allyship can come in so many different ways, not just, you know, holding signs, and it can be so many things.
With regard to allyship, and this happens a lot within the space we're in. How do you deal with well-meaning
Mm.
idiots? I know you recently had one of your photos
Oh,
shopped, and people think they're doing, you know, they think they're helping, but in actual fact, it's like the most tone-deaf thing
it's just like, how
ever.
can you think that's helping at all? Like, they're like, oh, I've fixed it. So basically, for anyone that hasn't seen, I posted a video on my social media, and it was a photo of me when I was younger, and then a photo of me as I am now, older. And what people are doing is cutting off this side of my face, cropping the photo to just this side. And then on, especially on TikTok, you can comment photos underneath in your people's comment sections. And they were commenting this half cropped photo of me on with just this side, the normal side, and saying, oh, I fixed it, or like the potential you could have had, or I made it look better, or this, I tried my best to mirror both this side of your face on both sides. I didn't ask you to anyway. Like, and firstly, and I don't know how you can ever think that was an okay idea. And I think it made me so frustrated because I think anyone, like, I just don't. And someone commented when I did this reply video being like, I need to talk about this because it's got out of hand. I've seen thousands of comments of the same thing. Someone commented who had done it saying that, oh, I'm sorry I did this, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, thanks, but can I ask why you felt the need to do it in the first place? And he was like, oh, I was just curious. I was like, why are you curious about that? Like, I'm a whole person. We're all whole people. Cuts off half of my face then makes me half a person. And you're basically saying I'm not good enough and trying to fix something that, one, can't be fixed, and two, is not for you to fix. I'm not for you to fix. We're not for society to fix, for them to be able to sleep at night and feel better. And so for me, it was just like so frustrating because I was like you think you're being a do-gooder and doing something here that you're just not doing, and it's just so tone deaf. And I was just like, this, it's not outright like you're a monster, but if anything, it's almost worse, I think, because it's this psychological, like, I fixed what have you fixed?
Yeah, fix what? Like,
yeah, it's kind of quite gaslighty. I was like, all I did is post 2 photos and you turn this into a whole thing, and like I can't even go into my comments without seeing my face cut off.
Well, you did an incredible job of calling it out and calling it out in an informed and educated way, and in a consultative way where you were basically saying, come on now, community, we can do better than this.
And if not, get off my page, basically.
Exactly. I am where your nonsense comes to die. I am where your nonsense comes to die, cold, naked, and afraid.
There was a lot more I wanted to say, but I was like, let me just keep this PG rated.
Well, on that note, I think that is a good time to kind of move over to the less formal stuff. But I mean, we'll go to Q&A very shortly, and I'm going to bring in the lovely Matilda for that as well. But any closing thoughts, reflections on just what you wanted to get across there before we open up to questions from the floor? And I definitely have some questions as well.
I love events like this. I love kind of bringing people together and as I say, having these chats. And I think the past 2 days of hearing like the FEI strategy and you know the importance of campaigns and stuff. I mean, we've even started planning next year's Data College International Week. I never planned that far ahead, ever. I don't know what I'm having for dinner in an hour. That's the guy I am. So yeah, we've got a room full of people who are very much on side, who understand like the importance and significance of kind of being seen, respect and inclusion. And I don't want to let this go by without acknowledging that and thinking everyone's sort of like rocking up and doing, as we said earlier, the good kind of
taking the time
allyship.
No, 100%. And I think, you know, nothing changes if nothing changes. And so I think there is such a power in numbers. And so you just being here today, being in the sessions, trying to learn, conversation is the best thing I think we can do. You know, society just doesn't have enough open conversations these days. And so I think this is so special. And I'm just so excited for what's next. You know, FEI, Phil, Matilda, the whole team, they're constantly working on something. And I just think it's really beautiful how, you know, though we talk a lot about allyship, we also cover legislation. You know, they can go into workplaces and talk about the right procedures and the right way to go about, you know, the way to talk about things or to support people with facial differences and in a workplace, but also within schools and so much more. And so I think there are so many sides to what FEI does, and I think it's so beautiful and it's so amazing. And I think that's what's really special is, though often we're talking about the values and what's important, and the gap and the disparity and how we fall through the cracks of society. Equally, it's also shining a light on the different work FEI does. It's the legislative stuff, like what we spoke about at the UN. It's also working with Sephora and doing My Face as a Masterpiece, and showing how art is an amazing outlet for change and diversity and inclusion. So I think it's just showing how there's so many different facets to face equality and moving that forwards. And so there's so many ways that you can be part of making change. Yeah.
Well, should that be the first question then? What we've got stuff in the Q&A. Matilda's joining now. Matilda, if you don't already know, she's our fundraising manager. If you're watching now and you're interested in doing an event or putting on something as in support of FEI, if you're interested in becoming an ambassador, this is your gal. But I think that is a really good question. So if you don't already know, Nikki spoke on behalf of FEI and the whole face equality movement back in March at the UN Human Rights Council, on the main disability panel. What was that like? How did you feel pre and post?
I think that I was like shitting myself. Like, I was not in my body. My heart was in my throat, and like I'll be quick, but I remember like they were saying there was 3 people speak on the panel, and they said I was going first. So in my head was like, okay, thank God I'm going first in a way, because it's like then it's over with, my speech is done. And I'd already really badly lost my voice, so that was another complete stress. Like Phil knows, it was the biggest stress ever. Like even Matilda, like it was just the biggest nightmare. I was gargling salt water, and I brought salt with me to like on the airplane. It was just not fun. But I remember being so anxious because I just wanted to do it right, and I was just wanted to convey everything the right way. And I knew it was like that was the global stage, and it was the first time they'd shone a spotlight on facial difference in this way, and law changing and policy making. And so I think it felt like this is our shot, and I don't want to mess it up. And so I just wanted to do it well. I'd gone over the speech so many times, but I hadn't actually really practiced it out loud because my voice had been completely gone. So I remember practicing, and my voice was even going, like it was going as I was practicing, and I was like, oh my God, what if it just goes mid-speech and then I'm just like, what do I do now? But it was, I think it was just incredible. It felt, to have so many different countries there and governing bodies was just mind-blowing. And I think that's what was so amazing, is we actually then, after we gave our opening kind of speeches and our statements, got to hear from each of them and what they are trying to do. And obviously it's one thing to say something, another thing to do it, but equally to just hear from so many different countries that you've never heard from before was massive. So I think even that in itself was amazing. And to just hear, like, I had people from like Ghana and China coming up to me after, and I was like, this is so crazy to be in that room and do it. So though I was so scared, I was like, this feels. And I think what I also have said a lot is, as much as the biggest part is conversation, a lot of it just does feel empty after you speak about it. It gets acknowledged and then it gets forgotten about, like so many things in life. And sometimes you do just feel a bit like, okay, and now I've got to do this again. And like, that's what we do and we don't mind. But I think this felt really like real, and like it was a true change, and like a true push in the right direction. And so I think that's what felt really special, is it felt like a concrete thing that we were doing, like it felt legitimate than just talking and raising awareness in that way. But I was so nervous. They said I was going first, and I was the last person to go doing speeches. So each time I was like getting ready, and then they'd be like, and so do your speech now. And I was like, oh my God, please just let me do my damn speech. So I was so nervous. But and then at the end we had to give closing statements, and I had no idea that I had to do that. So I was like, okay, what can I say? What can I say? What can I say? But it was amazing. And I think it felt so big. Really
did a fabulous job. You did such a fabulous job. A question for Adam in the chat box. So please either type some questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to get to them. A question's for Adam. If you could cast anyone in a film to play opposite you, who would it be and why? So I guess this would be perhaps your ideal co-star.
You know what this is.
So curious.
Because there's a plethora of options here. I could cast Sebastian again because I just love working with him, and he's a dude, and it's always a pleasure to hang out with him. I grew up on Adam Sandler, and he's one of my favorite actors of all time. And I love the fact that every now and again he'll do something like Uncut Gems, just to remind us all he can act, but chooses not to do those all the time. So Sandler's very much an option as well, and it'd also be quite good to work with Scarlett
Mm.
again. Though at the moment, I think Tom Holland is a very exciting actor.
Yeah, yeah. I love
So
Tom.
yeah, Tom Holland right now.
Yeah, I do love Adam Sandler though, I have to say. Like, he reminds me of Steve Carell in that, like, he's in the office and you see him, there's this like comical character, and then he suddenly does like a really deep thing, like Beautiful Boy, and you're like, where's this come from? But it's so good. I also feel like I've watched so many of his Adam Sandler's films in hospital, like the 50 First Dates and like 50
Hey,
that stuff. Just go with it. Escapism.
indeed. Happy Gilmore.
Love.
He's also my current style guru. Like I rock a pair of
Oh yeah.
basketball shorts. So
Yeah. Big pair of jorts.
Yeah, love it. We've got a question in the chat box here. So after campaigns like My Face is a Masterpiece and things like Craniofacial Awareness Month, what's one thing that you would love to see people in the Visible Difference community actually doing over the next year? That's a good one.
Great question. Thanks, Sophia.
Do you have one, Adam?
I I have never been a fan of XYZ awareness months because then what are we doing the other 11 months of the year? Is it okay? Here's our month to talk about it, and then the other 11 months, like oh, like it just suck it off. Right. So to me, this is like 365, including leap year.
Yeah. 100%.
And there's a lot to be said, and I know that there's an element of easier said than done to this. Just get on with it, right? Just go for it. And as I said, the greatest form of revenge is success. And changing the world is a very simple three-step process. See bullshit, call bullshit, change bullshit. And I think the more we can see what's around us that we think is unfair or gets on our nerves, letting it get on your nerves isn't enough. That isn't the win. If anything, that's the loss. The win is changing it. A really good friend of mine once said, if you find where your misery is, you'll find where your ministry is. And that's something I kind of crack on with, like carry with me all the time.
I love that.
That's giving me new merchandise ideas, Philida.
Adam's going to want a percentage for that.
Yeah, quite right.
I think, yeah, for me, I mean, I couldn't have said it better, Adam, but I think it's just like you've kind of said, is you're kind of the first in your atmosphere of work to do what you're doing on your level. And I think it's as amazing as it is, it's also hard and heavy to be the only person in that world doing it as you are. And so I think it would be really amazing to see more people coming into our realms of work. So
Yeah.
we feel that we're not the only ones, and it's not kind of slightly isolating at times, whether that's, you know, me walking the show that I did this week. I was kind of the first of its kind. You were the first of your kind really enacting. Why is that? So I really would love to see that being slightly more of an open thing now. And I
Yeah.
think society feels so, not all of society, but it feels so scared of difference and so scared of
hmm
like embracing what reality is and seeing everyone. And I think if you can't see everyone, then you're not in reality. And so I think for me, it's just, yeah, I think nothing changes, like I said, if nothing changes. And so I'd just love to see more of us. It's not like
Yeah,
I've said this before, it's not like we're asking to be, put on a throne and paraded around. Like it's not like we want that. We just want we
I would quite like that.
yeah. To be honest, maybe crown on head. But I think, yeah, above all, we just want the same we want the same things as any person without a facial difference does and deserve those. And so it's basically just moving further towards having a world in which we coexist within the same world that everyone else does, not
Mm.
completely separate.
And if there are like I don't know who's on the chat, but if there are sort of like companies or charities here who do diversity but don't do disfigurement, congratulations, you're not doing diversity. You've made this diverse-ish grey area
Mm.
that isn't a thing. And either all of it matters or none of it matters.
Totally.
Right. Brilliant. I'm getting some brilliant sound bites from both of you, so thank you. I've got a more personal question here for both of you. What's one thing about you most people wouldn't expect?
Oh,
You,
crikey.
Yeah.
You go first,
yeah,
Nikki. I need
okay.
to word mine very carefully.
I'm scared to hear what yours is. Um, I think mine would be that though I have like a public facing job and a very social job, I'm actually a real introvert and I love being alone and I love being by myself. And I actually go a bit stir crazy if I don't have that time. And though I do these things, I still massively have those internalized things that I deal with, grow that you have because you grow up with a facial difference, that I have to kind of shake off those habits of doing because they're just auto responses. Like I'll go out in public and I find myself scratching my head because I used to do that when I was younger. So I can pretend that I'm just covering my eye while I walk through a busy crowd. So I'm still trying to unlearn so many things that have been internalized through me being, little and, younger and take on so much of that stuff. But yeah, I don't love being alone all the time, but I definitely recharge myself and find like I've never wanted to leave the house if I haven't had to. Like I really just enjoy being at home. I'm a real creature of habit. Yeah, and I think when things can feel so uncertain in life, I think I'm pretty very type A. So I just like having control over what I can control. And if I don't have control over it, then it's not a fun day to be around me. I'll say that.
I'm a huge nerd. Like video gaming, do it.
Adam, everyone knows you're a
Everyone knows.
nerd.
Like
Adam,
think
you've
they
got
all
a
know this.
Lego, you've got a Lego map
I'm a
behind
semi-pro Magic the Gathering player. Okay, here's one. I'm banned from editing my own Wikipedia page
you. Okay, that's
Why?
much better.
because I put things on there that are funny, true, and that I can't say on this call. And they were like, nope, no more of this.
But they were factually correct.
Oh, yeah.
That's so
Interesting.
crazy.
So
That's
those were the unexpected things perhaps that now nobody's ever gonna know.
Unless you got there in those 8 minutes, then you know.
I've got a question that's coming from one of our lovely trustees, Dean. Two questions actually, but I will give you one at a time to be kind. What would a world that truly lived out face equality look like to you in 10 years' time?
I think it'd look a lot like what me and Nikki have been discussing. We'd have more people with visual differences, disfigurements, whatever vernacular you want to use, in prominent public positions, and it's not a big deal.
Exactly.
You know, someone's got to be the first, absolutely rock and roll. But I want to get to a point where it isn't oh my God, this is, I don't know, amazing, inspirational,
Yeah.
or what have you. Because we touched on earlier, sort of like the vilification of of disfigurement, but there's also on the flip side the Disneyfication of visual difference and disfigurement, where it's all brave, heroic, and inspirational. And because I do regular dude stuff, but I'm not a regular dude, whatever a regular dude is, I'm somehow heroic.
Yeah.
When both of those tropes aren't a thing anymore, I think that's when we're starting to nail it.
Yeah, I agree. I get like, oh, I could never do what you do all the time. And it's like, what? Exist? Live?
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
No, it's like, oh, you could. I'm a mess. I'm
Yeah,
a really good actor. I'm a mess in real life.
literally. It's so true. Like, yeah, it's so weird how certain things we do just get like kind of put into this like, oh, they're so brave. It's like we're just
All
trying to
right. No,
coexist and live a normal life like any of you are,
yeah,
So
I'm not
it's just
brave.
so
I'm
weird
afraid of cats and don't know my PIN number.
now.
Brilliantly said. Um, I've talked a lot about with my parents about removing the shame as well, which
Yeah.
has been quite an interesting conversation.
Definitely. I guess in a more like technological way, having technology that's advanced in a way that is in our, not even in our benefit, but that we can use and not have problems with, that are functional, that make our lives easier. Facial recognition has been a massive thing that we spoke about at the United Nations, and it
Hmm.
failing people with facial differences. And so it's just things that, are supposed to make life easier, actually make our life harder. You can't access your banking apps. You can't make a payment because you can't open, your face isn't being recognized by your banking app. So it's just like, normal things that other people are making their lives easier that are actually making ours harder. It's just, things to be streamlined so that it works for all. That's it.
I mean, you've again gone into TV presenter mode, which is so helpful for us because you've answered a question from Autumn about AI facial recognition. And I would just wonder if you've got any further thoughts and if you've had any personal experiences with things not working for you, perhaps.
Yeah, those airport gates aren't fun
Oh,
for me.
Yeah.
And some airports only have those. They don't have an actual person you can talk to. I think Singapore has a completely automated airport. But
right.
now with the online safety bill, to look at certain things, I've got to go on a thing and have it scan my face, and it doesn't work. So
It's just,
yeah, and it's all
so
this stuff that's supposed to be, as Nikki said, helpful, but isn't. If I want to pay one of my guys their kind of salary because it's over a certain amount, I think with NatWest it's 250. I've got to use the optics, which I can't, or I got to drag my ass to a bank, and
uh,
local branches just aren't a thing anymore.
few and far between.
So
It's
so it's
stress.
like half an hour out my way
Yeah.
to just do something I should be able to do like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's, well, I think it has been thought through. I just don't think they care.
Yeah. It's just it's an oversight that they just haven't considered at all. So again, it just doesn't affect them. These people putting these things into place don't have facial differences, so
Mm.
therefore just don't consider it at all. Yeah, you're so right.
I'm
I think no,
sorry,
go Phil.
conscious of time, and we've had
Yeah.
a few questions from Avril, and I feel like we should definitely answer at least one of them. One of them that might be suitable for both of you is around whether or not you would like a Barbie or a Ken doll if Mattel came knocking.
I've always said that I would love that. Like I've always said that would be my dream partnership. From a more internal level of like growing up and never having any toys to play with that look like me, any show to watch where I saw myself represented, and I'm sure you feel the same. That I
Yeah.
think it wouldn't, and also it wouldn't be okay. Sure, you can call it like Barbie with a facial difference. Mattel are doing great things. They have a disabled Barbie that's in a wheelchair. They have so many different types of Barbies now. A Down syndrome Barbie, it's amazing. But they've never changed Barbie's or Ken's face, and so I think that would be a massive statement.
Mhm.
And it wouldn't be like a facial difference Barbie; it would just be another Barbie. And I think that's, so much of education comes from the ground up, especially with children. It's with what they
Yeah.
read, with what they watch, with what they play with, what they see in school. Kids are sponges, no one is born, biased. It all is inherited and created. And
Mhm.
so for me, it's, the earlier you can teach people things in whatever means that is, toys is a great way to do that. So I would absolutely love that, especially because
Yeah.
I had that growing up. So whether it's to teach kids that don't have facial differences, so that they can be more aware, and if a child comes into their school that has one, to just, be a good friend and be a good ally, but also if
Mhm.
they do have one, to feel seen. So yeah.
Yeah. I take it.
Yeah.
And then that's my Christmas present sorted for that year as well. Just 50 of them, just trying out my mates in the pub, being like, yeah, happy Christmas.
Yeah.
Or as Steph has just said, a Lego figure,
Lego
Adam.
would be
Now,
pretty cool.
we need to, yeah, that's going to happen.
I can see Matilda taking notes in the background.
Yeah.
I think we've got two pitch decks to put together.
Yes.
Stat. With that in mind, we have come to the end of a fabulous talk that I, quite frankly, could have just sat and chewed the fat. Is that a term that's internationally recognized? I could have sat and chewed the fat for a very long time. Essentially, that was lovely, and I could talk to you both forever. A
Quite.
massive thank you for everything that
Thank
you
you.
do for us at FEI, for the community, for me personally. You are just such two wonderful humans that we get to collaborate with here at FEI. So thank you for doing everything that you do for us and for the community. It is always a joy. There is so much love for you both in the chat. So we will leave you to it because you are two incredibly busy people, and we have so much to look forward to when it comes to making face equality a reality together. So yeah, we've got lots to look forward to, and with that, we close out the 2025 FEI Forum.
Congratulations, guys.
Woo! Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much,
doing it.
everybody, for putting it together, for your time, your energy, your wisdom. I'm coming away with just a renewed sense of energy.
Well done,
Um,
team. It's not
yeah,
just us, it's you guys, you're the ones that organize all of this, that create all of this. We just come along and, do our bit where we can. And so without you guys, there's no us doing this. I mean, of course we can if we want to, but you're the ones that create these platforms to do it. So
Yeah.
having FEI is critical to doing whatever we can do.
yeah, and we love the work that we do. So it's a joy to do it with you
And I'm
all.
glad to have Adam along now.
Woo! Thank
So
you so much, everybody. Okay, I'm gonna close it there. Bye bye.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Have a great evening.